Good evening, winter semester classmates, and thank you for tuning in for my presentation on PEW research article and the analysis of political polarization for the winter 2017 semester. Political polarization, in essence, is when a person, individual, or citizen identifies with a political party and as such takes stances and has ideological views in accordance with the political party's views. There's nothing new about Republicans disliking the Democratic Party or conversely Democrats not liking the GOP, but the level of antipathy that members of each party feel towards the opposing party have surged to an all-time high over the past 2 decades, and the hostile relationship between both major parties is a threat to our society, ideological views as a country, values, traditions, and our government practices. With regard to background, including the sample size, the study conducted by Pew Research in 2014, funded through grants, is aimed at understanding the nature and scope of political polarization in the American public and how it interrelates with government, society, and people's personal lives. The findings of statistical evidence came as a result of a multi-part series based on a national self-administered survey of 10,013 random sampling, large N of nationwide adults. With regard to the data collection process, the surveys were conducted in 2014 with a randomized sample of 10,013 adults. They were through self-administered surveys online as well as telephone surveys. During the telephone surveys, there were 5,003 individuals that were either documented through surveys by way of cell phone contact or landline contact. Data collection was divided equally into 3 phases, A, B, and C, with independent samples, non-overlapping interview dates, and separate weighting. Statistical results were broken down into percentages according to variable questions and the results or answers to those questions from the survey. The next slide is just a diagram to show the group how a random sample would be selected from a populace or population. So some of the results for the studies were as follows. The findings of statistical evidence as a result of the multi-part series based on a national survey of 10,013 random sampling large N of nationwide adults is alarming in that it shows a spike in the dislike or dissatisfaction of one another based on a political identification. Therefore, Republicans are more likely to, for lack of a better word, hate Democrats and vice versa. The statistical findings show that we are negatively impacting the relationships we establish in everyday life, as we are surrounding ourselves with people that only believe in the same ideological views as us, leaving little conflict, but what conflict there is remains against the competing political party and their supporters. This risks, work relationships, relationship with friends, family, etc., and it's entirely based on political views. Ruining work relationships would have, an adverse effect on your work habits and the results of your work. Now, as far as results continue, the following statistics I've found particularly alarming from the Pew Research study. 1, the overall share of Americans who express consistently conservative or consistently liberal opinions has doubled over the past decade from 10% to 21%, which is a significant increase and jump. 43% of Republicans and 38% of Democrats now view the opposite party in strongly negative terms versus 1994, where 16-17% strongly negative opposing views for each party were viewed. Furthermore, nearly 2/3 at 63% of consistent conservatives and about half, 49% of consistent liberals say most of their close friends share their political views. So that result specifically, caters to the results from the previous slide, stating that relationships are being impacted in a negative outlook. Furthermore, 3 out of 10, 30% consistent conservatives say that they would be unhappy if an immediate family member married a Democrat, and about a quarter, 23% across the board of liberals say the same about the prospect of a Republican in-law. What that means is that 3 out of 10 people out of the sample size, and possibly any sample for that matter, would dislike an individual that married a sibling or family member based on their political party, which significantly negative impacts family relationships, which would be a huge negative impact on our traditions. Now we come to sampling error. Sampling error results from collecting data from some rather than all members of the population. The 2014 Political Polarization Typology Survey of 10,013 adults had a margin of sampling error of plus or minus 1.1 percentage points with a 95% confidence interval. This means that in 95 out of 100 samples of the same size and type, the results we obtain would vary by no more than plus or minus 1.1 percent points from the result we would get if we could interview every member of the population. Thus, the chances are very high, 95 out of 100, that any sample we draw will be within 1.1 points of the true population value. The margins of error reported and statistical tests of significance are adjusted to account for the survey's design effect, a measure of how much efficiency is lost from the weighting procedures. So, what resulted from this survey? The ATP actually resulted from this survey, which is the American Trends Panel. The American Trends Panel was created as a result of this survey. The American Trends Panel, created by Pew Research Center and first introduced in this report, is a nationally representative panel of randomly selected U.S. adults living in households. Of the 10,013 adults interviewed, 9,809 were invited to take part in the panel. A total of 5,338 agreed to participate and provide either a mailing address or an email address to which a welcome packet, a monetary incentive, and future survey invitations could be sent. Panelists also received small monetary incentive after participating in each wave of the survey. The ATP is a randomized concentrated sample employed by Pew Research for the purpose of documenting honest survey results for analysis. So the incentives that these panelists are receiving are strictly monetary, and they go at an annual fee as well as per survey benefit. In conclusion, the qualitative and quantitative research collected and analyzed using survey data shows that our political beliefs in some cases are causing us to lose friends, discriminate against one another, and negatively impact our relationships in everyday life, such as in the office and workplace. Who's to blame for these drastic statistical increases in hate amongst parties? Is it the media or is it ourselves? No doubt that the media influences decisions, feelings, and views, but it is up to us as citizens to distinguish what we see as true, false, and we should not let the political views of another affect our relationships, especially working relationships, in government, family, and day-to-day operations. Thank you for tuning in to my presentation, and I look forward to listening and watching your presentations. Thank you, and have a great semester. The references for my paper were both the PEW Research Center article as well as Remler and Van Ryzen's textbook for applied research and design.